My office smelled like old money and new fear. She had been waiting 9 minutes when I finally opened the door. 3 years earlier, this woman had stood in her own kitchen and told 19 relatives I was a liar. She had cried real tears. She had clutched her chest the way she always did when she wanted a room to believe her. The room had believed her. That was her gift. The gift of being the mother everyone trusted. Now she sat across from me in a soft cream blouse, her hands folded too tightly in her lap, waiting for me to save her. She did not know it was me. The receptionist had said only that the principal would see her now. But to understand how she ended up here, you have to come back with me. 3 years back. To the night she set fire to my marriage and told everyone I lit the match. My name is Charlotte Wendell, I'm 33, and 3 years ago I was a part-time bookkeeper running the back office for 2 small medical practices in the suburbs. Before I tell you what my mother-in-law did to me and what I did back, do one quiet thing for me. Tap subscribe. Hit that like button. The women who hear this story to the end are the women who changed their lives because of it. I want you in the room with her when we get there. I had been married to Duke for 6 years when this story begins. He was the kind of man who opened car doors and remembered the exact way you took your coffee after a single morning. He was warm. He was generous. He was also, in a way I would not understand until much later, not entirely his own man. His mother was Veda. The first time I met her, she put both her hands on my face and told me I had finally completed her family. She gave me a pearl bracelet that had been in the family for 2 generations. She said she had been saving it for the right daughter-in-law. She said I was that daughter. On the drive home, I sat at 3 red lights with both hands on the wheel and a feeling in my chest I did not have a word for. I had grown up with a sharp, distant mother and a father who left when I was 9. Veda felt like everything I had missed. That is the first red flag I want you to remember. Love bombing always feels like the love you never got. That is how you know it is not love. For 2 years after the wedding, Veda treated me like a daughter. She called me on Sundays. She drove 40 minutes to bring me soup when I had the flu. She insisted I sit beside her at every holiday in the seat she said was reserved for her girls. Her girls were me and Duke's older sister. I noticed slowly that her girls were not treated the same. His sister got the praise. She got the gushing. She got the boutique in Uptown that Veda quietly funded for 3 years straight, the one Veda described at dinners as my daughter's incredible vision. She got the front row at every family event. I got the kitchen jobs, the cleanup, the thank you Charlotte that came after the toast that was always for someone else. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I was the new one. I told myself a woman like Veda, who had raised her children mostly on her own, was allowed to love her own children a little more loudly. I told myself a lot of things. The truth is that I was being given a role. The role was the helper. The good one. The one who proved Veda was generous. Because look how much she had taken Charlotte in. Look how seamless Charlotte was. Look how Charlotte never made anything difficult. The role had a price. Every role does. I was not allowed to need anything. I was not allowed to have a bad day. I was not allowed to ask Duke for the kind of attention that would pull him away from his mother's house on a Sunday afternoon. The first time I asked Duke to skip a Sunday at Veda's, he looked at me like I had asked him to swim across the ocean. My mom needs us, he said. He always said us. Duke, your mom has 4 other people coming. She needs us, Charlotte. I did not push. I should have pushed. But Duke had a way of saying his mother's name that made me feel like a stranger in my own kitchen. I had a job I liked. I had a husband I loved. I had a mother-in-law who told everyone she had been waiting her whole life for a daughter like me. I did not see the door that was already closing behind me. I did not see that the pearl bracelet, the soup, the seat at the table, every soft and beautiful thing she had given me was a deposit on a debt she planned to call in. The crack started on a Wednesday in March. Duke came home from his mother's house with a strange tension in his jaw. I asked him what was wrong. He said nothing. He said he was tired. He went to bed without dinner. On Thursday, his sister stopped returning my texts. On Friday, his cousin canceled lunch. On Saturday, my husband sat at the foot of our bed at midnight and asked me if I had ever spoken to a man from my old job. He said the name. He waited. The man he named had moved to another state 2 years before. We had been friendly. We had never been more than friendly. I said yes. I said we had worked together. I asked Duke why. He showed me his phone. His mother had sent him a series of screenshots. The screenshots looked like texts between me and the man. They were not. The phrasing was almost mine. The dates were recent. The conversation was not the kind of conversation you have with a coworker who lives in another state. I stared at them. I felt my body go cold in a slow, careful way. Duke, I did not send these. My mother got them from his wife. He is not married. He has never been married. He flinched at that, but he did not put the phone down. Duke, look at the timestamps. I was at your mother's house at 6 p.m. on this date. You drove me. We were at the lake property the whole weekend on this date. Duke. He looked at me and I watched something quiet and terrible move behind his eyes. He had already made his decision. His mother had told him a story. The story was already inside him. She says you've been pulling away from the family for months. I have not. She says you missed her birthday on purpose. Duke, I had a procedure on her birthday. You took me to it. You held my hand in the parking lot. She says she covered for you. She says she told everyone you were sick because she did not want them to know. That was the moment I understood I was not in a marriage. I was in a courtroom, and the judge had already received her instructions from the woman down the hall. The dinner happened the next Sunday. The family gathered for what Veda called a clearing the air conversation. 19 of us around the long oak table in her dining room. She poured wine, she passed bread, she asked everyone how their week had been. Then, between the salad and the main course, she set down her fork and she cried. She cried beautifully. She always did. She told the table she had something hard to share. She told them she had tried to protect me. She told them she had finally seen the texts and could not keep them to herself any longer. She told them she had cried for 3 nights before she could bring herself to show her son. She said she loved me like a daughter. She said she just could not let her boy be made a fool of. The faces around that table changed in a way I will not describe with pretty words. They went flat, one by one. His aunt looked at her plate. His cousin set down her wine glass and did not pick it up again. His sister, the golden one, the one who had not returned my texts, looked at me with the kind of pity that is not pity. The kind that is permission. I tried to speak. I tried to say the texts were not real. I tried to say I could prove I was not even in the city on the date stamped on the first one. Veda reached across the table and put her hand on mine. Sweetheart, she said. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. I left the dinner with my purse, my keys, and the pearl bracelet on my wrist. Nothing else. Duke did not walk me out. He filed for divorce 11 days later. I learned the rest of what Veda had told the family from a long, kind voicemail left by his aunt 3 weeks after that. She apologized for not saying anything sooner. She said she had not believed Veda from the start. She said the family had a way of going quiet when Veda cried. She said this had happened to someone else before. She did not say who. She did not have to. I want to pause here, because if you have ever lived in a family like this one, I need you to understand what was happening at that table. That table was not a family. It was a system. And in a system like Veda's, every member has an assigned role. There is the parent at the center. There is the golden child who proves the parent's love is real. There is the scapegoat who absorbs every difficult feeling the family cannot face. And there is the enmeshed child, the one whose entire emotional development has been wrapped around the parent's needs. The one who never learned to have an inside of his own. Duke was the enmeshed son. His sister was the golden daughter. And Charlotte had been chosen, from the night Veda put a pearl bracelet on her wrist, to be the scapegoat in waiting. A scapegoat is not selected because she is bad. She is selected because she is decent. The family needs someone solid enough to carry the family's poison without breaking the system. Love bombing the scapegoat is the trap. It builds her trust, so that when the family needs a story, she is close enough to take the fall. 3 signs you are the scapegoat in your own family. 1. You feel responsible for everyone's feelings, but no one feels responsible for yours. 2. When you try to set a boundary, you are described as cold or difficult. or going through something. 3. The parent at the center punishes you not by yelling, but by getting the rest of the family to look away. And what Charlotte does next, once she understood what she had been chosen for, is the part nobody at that dinner table saw coming. I moved out of the house I had shared with Duke before the divorce was final. I took the pearl bracelet, I took my books, I left everything else. For 6 weeks, I lived in a one-bedroom apartment above a dry cleaner, and I did not cry on a schedule. I cried in the cereal aisle, I cried at red lights. I cried once at the smell of a candle that reminded me of Veda's kitchen, and I threw the candle in the dumpster behind the building, and I sat on the curb until I could breathe. The 7th week, something shifted. I had a client. A small one. A dentist who had hired me to do his books 2 years before. He called me to ask if I would take on a friend of his, a chiropractor whose practice was bleeding money. I said yes. I went to the chiropractor's office on a Tuesday morning and I spent 4 hours pulling apart his expenses. By lunchtime I had found him $18,000 in waste. He looked at me across his desk. He said, "Where have you been all my life?" I went home and I cried again, but this time the crying felt different. It felt like something putting itself back together in a room I had not opened in years. The chiropractor told a friend. The friend told a friend. By the end of that summer, I had 9 clients. By Christmas, I had 14, and I had to turn one away. I met a woman that fall. She came in for a consultation on her husband's struggling landscaping business, and she sat across from me in jeans and a denim shirt, and she watched me work for 40 minutes before she spoke. She told me her name. She told me she ran a financial advisory practice in the city and had been quietly looking for a junior partner for a year. She told me she was 62, and she did not have time to train someone who needed coddling. She told me I would not need coddling. She became my mentor. She became my friend. She became, in a way I would not have words for until much later, the mother I had always wanted Veda to be. In the 2nd year, I let her merge my client list into her firm. In the 3rd year, she made me a partner, and then quietly she sold me the practice on a payment plan that, on paper, made no sense for her and every kind of sense for me. I asked her once why she had done it. She said she had watched me carry something heavy into her office on a Tuesday in October, and she had decided that day that she was going to give me a place to set it down. I worked. I worked the way women work, when they have something to prove to a room that is not even watching them. I moved out of the apartment above the dry cleaner. I bought a small house with a green door. I put the pearl bracelet in the top drawer of my desk, and I closed the drawer. I learned the rest from his aunt. The aunt who had left the voicemail. She called me every few months, in the way women do when they want you to know you have not been forgotten. She told me Duke's startup had stalled. He had taken 3 loans from his mother. He could not pay them back. She told me Veda's investments were not what Veda had told the family they were. Her longtime money guy had retired to another state, and the new one had quit after 8 months. Veda did not trust strangers with money. Veda had been moving things herself, the way she had always moved things, with confidence and no expertise. She told me Duke's sister, the golden one, had closed the boutique. The funding had stopped. Veda did not have the cash anymore to keep it open. She told me Veda was asking around for someone good, someone discreet. Someone who handled small family businesses. She told me she had given Veda my name. She did not give Veda my married name. She gave her the name on the door of my office. The name on the door of my office was the name I was born with. Charlotte Wendell. Veda made the appointment herself. She arrived on a Thursday at 10 in the morning. She wore the cream blouse she always wore when she wanted to look soft. She carried a leather folder I recognized from her old study. My receptionist offered her coffee. She declined. She sat in the waiting area and she crossed her legs the ankle and she folded her hands in her lap and she waited. I let her wait 9 minutes. Not to be cruel, to give myself time. That morning I had worn navy. I had pinned my hair back. I had walked into my office and seen my own last name on the door, the one I had taken back the month the divorce was final. When I opened the door to my office, she stood, she turned, and the air went out of her in a way I did not need a mirror to see. Charlotte, Mrs. Mendel, come in. She did not move. Charlotte, I did not know. I know you did not know. Please, sit down. She sat. She kept her hands in her lap. She looked at the certificate on my wall. She looked at the photograph on my desk of me with my mentor at last year's industry awards. She looked at the door I had closed behind us. She did not look at me. I have your file, I said. I have read it. Your son's loans are inside the file, so are your daughter's. So is the line of credit you took out against the house in 2022, which I am guessing your son does not know about. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I can help you, I said. I can build you a plan. It will not be a soft plan. It will be honest. You will not enjoy it. You will, for the first time in a long time, have to be the person you have always told the family you were. She found her voice. Charlotte, I want to tell you about that night. I was confused. The texts were sent to me. I did not know. I thought I was protecting my son. I let her finish. Women like Veda always need to finish. When she was done, I opened the top drawer of my desk and I set the pearl bracelet on the wood between us. This was in your family for 2 generations, I said. You told me, the night you gave it to me, that you had been saving it for the right daughter-in-law. I have carried it for 3 years. I would like to give it back to you now. She stared at it. She stared at it for a long, slow time. I did not gloat. I did not need to. The room understood. You can keep me as your advisor, I said, or you can find someone else. There are 3 good ones in the city. I will give you their names. Whichever you choose, I need you to hear one thing. The girl you tried to discard at your dinner table did not need your family to survive. She built a life your family is now asking her to save. She picked up the bracelet with both hands. Her fingers were shaking. Charlotte, please. I stood. I walked her to the door. I opened it for her, the way Duke used to open doors for me, with the kind of grace you can only give someone when you no longer need anything from them. Mrs. Mendel, I said, soft, at the doorway. You taught me how to set a beautiful table. I learned the rest myself. She did not turn around. I want you to hear me. If you are sitting in a family right now that has chosen you for the role Charlotte was chosen for, the helper, the soft one, the one who carries everyone else's weather, listen to me. The role is not who you are. The role is who they need you to be. You are allowed to set it down. You are allowed to walk out of the dining room. You are allowed to build a life so steady that one day the people who looked away from you will come looking for the kind of help only you can give. And on that day, you do not owe them a reunion. You owe them a clean, honest invoice and a closed door. Because the glow-up is the revenge, and it always, always was. If this story moved something in you, subscribe, comment, and tell me, what role did your family hand you? I read every single one. Tap like. It puts this story in front of the next woman who needs it. Share it with a friend you've been worrying about. She will know why. Stay close. I'll see you in the next one.